What's up everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Matt Portwood. If you're like me or like any one of my clients, then you know that losing weight or burning fat is not the most enjoyable process that there is in life. And so when we're doing that, ideally we want to lose that weight and lose that fat as fast as we can so that we can get to our goal and then enjoy our life at our goal weight. Today's video, I'm going to be talking about 5 fat loss game changers, or 5 small things that you can change in your day-to-day lifestyle that will really ramp up the amount of fat that you burn on a day-to-day basis so that you can get to your goal as quickly as possible, okay? Now, before I dive into the 5 fat loss game changers that I want to go over today, I want to do a little bit of education on why these work so well. But if you don't want to go through this part of the video, that's fine. Just skip forward a few minutes until I start going through the 5 fat loss game changers. Otherwise, stick around and I'll jump right into why these work so well. So our body likes to burn 2 things for fuel. It likes to burn carbohydrate and it likes to burn fat. But what most people don't understand is that your body's kind of hardwired to burn stored carbohydrate before it starts burning a lot of fat. And in order to help you understand why that's the case, I want to teach you something I call the bucket analogy. So I want you to imagine that this bucket represents how much space that your body has to store sugar away. Now with fat, your body can create almost an unlimited amount of space to store fat. That's why when we gain weight, we just continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger and pack on the inches. But that's not the case when it comes to your body storing sugar away. So imagine that this bucket represents how much space that your body has to actually store sugar away and to get it out of your blood so that you have healthy blood sugar on a daily basis. Well, when you're eating carbohydrates every day or drinking carbohydrates every day at a rate faster than you're burning them off, imagine that you're putting sugar into this bucket faster than you're burning it out, and this bucket is filling up and it's filling up and it's filling up. Well, the problem is that if you continue to do that, as a lot of Americans do on a daily basis, this bucket becomes full and it starts to overflow continuously with sugar. And that's where things happen, like you start to gain weight, you start to pack on the inches, your blood sugars start to get out of control, and you might develop something like diabetes. Your cholesterol gets out of control, your blood pressure gets out of control. All these things start to go haywire because we're exceeding our body's capacity for stored sugar. We're taking in sugar faster than we're burning it off. Now, since all these unhealthy things can happen when we're exceeding that capacity, our body's hardwired to burn sugar before it burns a lot of fat off of our body, because it needs to make sure that this bucket doesn't get full and overflowing and just keep overflowing, causing all of these things to get out of whack. And that's what today's game changers are going to help you do. They're going to help teach you how you can change your lifestyle with 5 simple changes to make sure that you're burning sugar out faster than you're putting it in, so that this bucket, if it is overflowing, starts to empty out and actually empties on a daily basis. And then you can actually keep this bucket empty so that your body is focused on burning fat for fuel instead of constantly trying to empty this bucket out. So that's the bucket analogy, and that's why the 5 things that I'm going to teach you in this video work so well. So the first thing we need to do in order to make sure we're burning more and more fat for fuel is we need to start emptying out that bucket. And the best way to do that is to stop putting sugar into the bucket faster than we're burning it out. So the first thing you can do to make that happen is to stop eating carbohydrates later in the day, maybe after lunchtime. So don't eat carbohydrates after lunchtime. And what this is gonna do for you is it's gonna create this long window of time between, say, lunch and breakfast the next day, where there's no starch or carbohydrate coming into your body and going into that bucket. Now, that whole long period of time is now going to be used to burn more and more starch and sugar out of your sugar stores within your body so that you can empty that bucket out faster. So very simple, just don't eat your carbohydrates after lunch. Keep your dinner and post-lunch snacks to proteins, veggies, and healthy fats during your dinner. And that's number 1. You're gonna start to empty that bucket out very quickly. Number 2, if you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to burn as much fat as possible, you don't want to combine carbs and fats together in your meals if at all possible. Now, every time I'm doing a nutrition orientation with a new client, I always ask them the same question. Can you tell me any natural food from nature, whether it's an animal product, a dairy product, a fruit, a vegetable, a nut, a seed? Can you give me any example of a food that has a lot of carbohydrate and fat in it at the same time? And trick question, they don't really exist. Your meat products, your animal products have protein and fat. Your nuts and seeds have have protein and fat, mostly fat with a little bit of protein. Your vegetables and your fruits and things of that nature have starch, fiber, maybe a little bit of protein, but there's no fat in those. Nature doesn't combine starch and fat together, and our bodies haven't evolved. They're not made to eat large amounts of carbohydrate and fat together. And the problem is when you take something like an apple and add peanut butter to it, now not only are we eating fat in the form of the peanut butter that we're probably gonna store away, but we're also putting sugar into the bucket, which means it's gonna take longer for us to now burn through that sugar that's in the bucket and then start burning that peanut butter off. So you see what I'm saying? We don't wanna combine our fats and our sugars together if we're trying to lose weight. It's really, really slowing your progress. And if you think of it in terms of a dial of like 1 to 10 for fat burn, let's say you had a dial in your body and when it was cranked to 10, you're burning a lot of fat. And when it's cranked all the way down to 1, you're burning hardly any fat because you're burning all the sugar out of the bucket. Imagine when you're eating an apple and then you add peanut butter, which is almost a pure fat on top of it. We're turning that dial from 10 or 7 all the way down to 1 because we're just taking in all this external fuel. And if we're taking in all that external fuel at one time, there's almost no reason for our body to burn body fat off of our body because we have all this external fuel coming in. So don't combine your carbs and your fats in your meals. That's gonna be number 2. Huge for weight loss, huge for burning fat. Number 3 is you don't wanna snack on carbs and fats. And again, the reason for this is because anytime we're eating an external fuel like a carb or a fat, there's less of an incentive for our body to burn its own internal fuel, which is the whole goal of what we're trying to do, losing weight and burning fat. So if you're snacking on carbs and fats in between your meals, every time you do that, you're just continuing to turn that fat burn dial down. Instead, if you snack on proteins and veggies between your meals and you're not taking in any more external fuels like carbohydrate or fat in between your meals, now that dial is going right back up. And now you can start to see when we combine 1, 2, and 3 where this is going. By not eating carbohydrates after lunch, say between lunch and breakfast the next day, now we have this big long window with no carbohydrate coming in where we're emptying out that sugar bucket and forcing our body to burn more fat for fuel. And then by not combining our fats and our carbs together, we're just in general consuming less external fuels in general, again, cranking that dial up more. And then by not snacking on carbs and fats in between your meals, again, we're just cranking that dial up, maximizing how much fat our body is poised to burn at any one given time. So that's the first 3. Let's move on to number 4. Number 4 is called carb cycling, and this is something that a lot of advanced people use, but it's really something that just makes very plain sense when you think about it. Carb cycling basically means that you vary the amount of carbs that you eat according to how active you plan to be. So if you're having a really active day where you're out, maybe you're shopping, or maybe you're having ball practice, or maybe you're on your feet a lot at work, and then you're going to the gym after work or before work, but you're getting a workout in, you're getting steps in, you're getting exercise, you're getting a lot of activity and movement, you're burning a lot of calories. On those days, you would eat more carbohydrates. Say maybe 2 servings of carbohydrate that day. But then maybe on a Sunday, it's kind of a lazy day and you're not really walking. You're kind of just lounging on the couch, relaxing, which is important. We need time to relax. But if you're not out moving, if you're not up on your feet, if you're not going to the gym to work out, then you don't really need that carbohydrate. There's no real purpose for it. You're just putting carbohydrate into that bucket, but you're not really burning it out. So carb cycling basically means that on your really active days, you can have a little bit more carbohydrate, say like 2 fist-sized servings of carbohydrate that day. But on your rest day, you may only want to have 1 serving or maybe 0 servings and just replace those servings of carbohydrate from your meals with a healthy fat. So carb cycling is varying how much carbohydrate you're taking in that day according to how active you're going to be, so that you aren't putting sugar into this bucket when you're not going to be burning it out, and you're keeping your body focused on burning fat for fuel, okay? So that's number 4, carb cycling. The last one is something called intermittent fasting, and this one could be a video all on its own. In fact, I have no doubt I will come back and make several videos in depth about intermittent fasting because there's just so many ways to intermittent fast. There's many different kinds of intermittent fasting. There's a whole plethora of benefits to intermittent fasting that I'm not even gonna have time to get into today, but I put it on this list because of all of these things on this list, intermittent fasting for me and for many of my clients is something that did completely change the game when it came to not only losing the weight and getting really lean and feeling super happy about where my body was, but it also made it very easy for me to keep that weight off. And so the most common form of intermittent fasting that we hear about is called 16-8 intermittent fasting. What that basically means is that you're fasting for roughly 16 hours of the day, not taking in any calories for 16 hours of the day, and then you're eating or taking in all of your actual calories for the day within an 8-hour period. So a very simple example of this would be where someone eats between, say, 12 noon and 8 p.m. That's the time that they eat or drink their calories. And then from 8 p.m., say, all the way through noon the next day, you're not taking in any calories. Now, what this does is really kind of amazing, is just like in number 1, where we said don't eat your carbohydrates after lunch, we were creating a window of time where there's no carbohydrate coming in and going into this bucket that would slow our bodies down from burning this sugar out of this bucket and allowing us to burn more fat for fuel. But now we're taking it a step further and we're saying, okay, maybe after dinner, I'm not eating or drinking anything until lunch the next day. So I'm actually gonna skip breakfast that next day and I'm gonna go calorie free from, say, 8 p.m. until 12 noon. So now I have not only this extended period of time where I'm not taking in any starch or carbohydrates, but now I have an extended period of time where I'm not taking in any calories. And this really incentivizes your body to burn the sugar out of this bucket and to allow your body to start burning and having to burn a much higher amount of fat for fuel on a daily basis. Not to mention, it helps you naturally sort of calorie restrict because you're just eliminating a meal altogether. And for most people, and a lot of my clients, I find that it's a lot easier to eliminate a meal or a snack completely than it is to eat less at that meal. We're far more successful at just avoiding it completely than we are stopping before we're full, okay? So intermittent fasting is just another way to eliminate calories from your diet, but also to eliminate fuels coming in externally for a much extended period of time, allowing you to stabilize your blood sugars, burn more fat for fuel, and a ton of other benefits that I really don't have time to get into today. But if you're interested in intermittent fasting, I'd be happy to do future videos about it. But like I said, 16-8 intermittent fasting is probably one of the most common forms, and it's just where you eat in about an 8-hour period from, say, 12 p.m. to 8 p.m., and then you fast for the rest of your time, not taking in any calories. Now, when I fast, I drink things that are flavored with artificial sweeteners and things like that. As long as they're calorie-free, for the most part, from a weight loss perspective, you're going to be fine. There are a lot of fasting purists out there that say that you can't take in any of those things when you're fasting, but when we're talking about strictly a weight loss perspective and a fat loss perspective, I don't think that those things are going to hurt you. As long as they're calorie-free, you're going to be fine, okay? So that's it. That's the 5 fat loss game changers. Number 1, you don't want to eat carbs after lunch, so you get that extended window where you're not bringing in starch and putting it in that bucket. You're allowing yourself to empty that bucket, empty out all your stored sugar so your body has to burn fat. Number 2, we're not combining fats and carbs together, so we're eating less of those external fuels in general, and we're not getting too much at one time. So again, we're cranking that dial up to 10 so that we're burning more and more fat. Number 3, we're not gonna snack on our carbs and fats between meals. So again, we're giving our body more of an opportunity to crank that dial up where we're not taking in external fuels and we're burning internal fuels. Number 4, you can do carb cycling, which basically means on your lower activity days, you're doing way less carbohydrates, maybe 1 serving or no servings, and you're doing more healthy fats on those days. And on your really active days, maybe you do more carbohydrates, maybe you do up to 2 servings a day for your carbohydrates on your active days, 1 or 0 on your inactive days. And that really helps you keep within that capacity so you're burning sugar out of your body and burning more fat. And then the last one, 16-8 intermittent fasting, very simple way to just increase the amount of time that your body doesn't have calories or external fuels coming in. Again, just cranking that dial all the way up to 10 so that you can really maximize your results. Now, when you put all of these things together on a daily basis, it's really crazy how effective they can be. Even just one of these things can be effective, but when you put all 5 together, it's really impressive what you're able to do from a results perspective when you put these things together. And that is it for today, guys. If you found anything in this video helpful, please be sure to tell me in the comments, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you hit the bell button that's right next to the subscribe button so you can get notifications when I release the next video. Hit the like button on this video because YouTube loves it when you do that. Otherwise, I thank you so much for spending this much time with me, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.